This month's Power BI update is jam-packed with a bunch of my favorite features yet. Features like the center values for the donut charts, some matrix updates, the dark mode feature, and the export to Excel feature on mobile. All of that and more, so without further ado, let's jump in. Let's kick things off by covering some of the AI updates. The Fabric apps is a new feature that lets you create beautiful front-end web pages for your apps. You can connect these to your existing semantic models in your service, which then inherits the same level of access, so ensuring that your data is secure even if it's being served through Fabric apps. You previously needed build access to your semantic model in order to access these Fabric apps. Now that has been changed, so you only need the read access for them, which sort of makes sense if you're only viewing the data. This doesn't apply to app authors though, so if you're building Fabric apps on top of semantic models, you still need the build access like you did before. Copilot Summaries and narratives can now read the visuals that are hidden via bookmarks. Bookmarks is an old feature that lets you save your filter selections in your reports, but you can also use it to toggle your visuals to show or hide them in certain cases, maybe to save space or give users the option to swap what they want to see in the page. Copilot Summaries previously skipped these hidden visuals, so you'd only get the summaries on the visuals that is currently visible on your page. Copilot should now be looking at these hidden visuals as well. Modern visual defaults are now in general availability. This is the feature that lets you swap your base themes to the more modern Fluent 2 themes. They've added a new theme tab in the visualizations pane, letting you adjust certain basic theme properties like colors, text, page settings, filter panes, and so on, which will apply to your theme and in turn your whole report. Date picker for the slicer visual now supports single date selection. So this is handy for scenarios where you want your users to only be selecting one date at a time. And now, finally, center values are natively available as part of your donut charts. This lets you add things like labels, values, images, all in different combinations or all at the same time in the same visual. So in the past, and every time I've used donut charts, I've always had to put an extra layer on top of my pie charts to put certain narratives or values in the middle of my pie chart as a separate visual, just because it's more natural to use that center area for additional context or narratives. Now I don't have to do this kind of custom thing anymore, and I can just do it all in one visual, which is, I think, really great. Comments are now supported in org apps, which lets you collaborate easier with your colleagues. Matrix visuals now support expand and collapse options on the column headers. So these are the plus and minus icons that you can toggle, which is similar to other tools like Excel. Now, previously in Power BI, when you wanted to expand your column headers or your hierarchies, the only option that you had is either expanding or collapsing everything from the header options, which is not always that obvious because, you know, the header icons only show up when you hover over the visual. And it's also not that flexible because the toggles will expand or collapse everything on the hierarchy, but the plus or minus icons will now let you toggle the ones that you actually want, similar to Excel. There's also now a new option that lets you freeze your row headers on your matrix. So it's useful for scenarios when you're scrolling horizontally on your matrix and you have a small visual. This sort of ensures that you can still see the context of your row headers. And in the scenario in the blog post that they've given, this is typically solving issues when you're viewing reports or visuals in Power BI Mobile, especially because of the size of the mobile screens. OneLake file URLs can now be used for images. So this seems to cover any visuals that allow you to paste in an image URL, which is typically a URL that you would get from an external website. Now you can use OneLake file URLs here instead, which I think is good because most of your data already lives in OneLake anyway, so this is a good way to kind of centralize everything in one place. The shape map files that you need for other visuals like Azure Maps, for example, also support this OneLake URL stuff. So you can really just use OneLake to store not just your data, but also your images and reference layers. Outer padding and space between categories have been added for a bunch of visuals. This just lets you control how much space your charts and data points take on your visual. You probably won't be using this feature that often because the sizings are typically automatic and generally good enough, but it's useful for scenarios where you want finer controls over the spacings of your data points. If you're enjoying this video so far, I'd really appreciate it if you gave this video a like, leave a comment below, share it with your friends, or subscribe if you haven't yet. Any interaction in this video helps me reach out to more people. If you haven't yet, make sure you check out my newly revamped website, solutionsabroad.co.uk, where I make it super easy for you to track your Power BI learning progress. You can follow any of my recommended paths or create your own, watch any of my videos, mark those videos as watched, and all of this for free. I've recently updated my recommended paths on various topics and different skill levels. So if you're new to Power BI, I would highly recommend you checking out the Power BI Newbie Guide, which covers basically the end-to-end of Power BI development. So make sure you sign up for your free account, start tracking your Power BI learning, and let me know what you think. Thank you very much, and back to the video. Azure Maps also received a performance bump this month, which supposedly makes it render faster, especially when you do interactions like filtering or zooming. Azure Maps, as we know, have a limit of 30,000 data points, and it doesn't really crash the Azure Maps. It just means that if you have any data with data points beyond 30,000, those won't show up in the map. Now, when you cross-filter your data, your visuals will reload the data that it's showing. So even if it didn't show it previously, as long as this new cross filter stays within the 30,000 limit, these new data points will be rendered. The slicer visual received some more updates again this month. This time some more formatting options such as border colors, icon colors, and accent bars. I think it's really cool that they're still supporting this visual despite already releasing some more fancier slicer visuals. These additional customizations will help make this slicer visual a bit more modern. You can now refresh your schema or data independently from the Power BI service, which previously is a feature that only existed in the Power BI desktop experience. They've also added scheduled refresh and refresh history from here, which I guess it makes sense, though you typically set this up outside of your semantic model via the settings options. There's also an option here to create advanced refresh. This is the option that lets you create refresh pipelines. So that's the feature that came out a while ago that lets you define an event to trigger a refresh or refresh them in various sequences. You also have the option to refresh individual tables in the Power BI service, with an option to choose across the 3 different combinations, which is pretty handy for debugging. You can now convert direct lake tables into import mode from the Power BI service. Now, you have to be careful with this process because it is irreversible. They do give you a warning prompt before you kind of continue. So think carefully before you do it. And I did get caught up by it a while ago as well. So make sure you understand what you're doing when you're converting a direct lake table into an import mode. Direct lake also now supports calculated columns, which gives you the flexibility to add your own fields without modifying the data upstream. But unlike your typical calculated columns, it does have a lot of limitations because the column itself is not really materialized. One of the bigger ones being that you can't use it for relationships, which is, typically one of the reasons why I would create calculated columns. If you're curious about this feature, let me know and I'll try to cover it in a future video when I start covering kind of direct lake on OneLake or just OneLake in general. There's some accessibility improvements on the dark mode feature of Power BI Desktop. A bunch of the interface elements are now legible and have better contrast against the dark background. I've been avoiding the dark mode of Power BI just because it was something that was released maybe a few months back now, and I did give it a try when it came out, but it did cause a lot of bugs, and not just visuals, that was fixed by just switching back to the light modes. So as part of these new updates, I'm hoping that those bugs have been fixed. So I'll give it a try because I do prefer to use dark modes. There's now a rotate button that lets you quickly rotate your report view on mobile. This is useful if you have your mobile locked on portrait mode. They've now also added the ability to export your data into Excel from the Power BI mobile app, which is really something we can't escape, can we? You can now export your data and share it with your teams or save it in your own files. Power BI Desktop now supports instant reloads when you make changes to your PBIP files. So now when you make edits to these files via VS Code or something else, Power BI Desktop will instantly reload to show those changes. This kind of capability sounds kind of similar to the Power BI Desktop Bridge, which I covered in one of my update videos a month or two ago, where it supposedly lets agents interact with your Power BI Desktop directly to make changes to your reports. And while I've never really tested out the Power BI Desktop Bridge, this feature seems fairly similar, at least in the kind of workflow where you're making changes to the file and then it being reflected in Power BI Desktop. So let me know and I'll try to cover this in a future video as well. And that's really it for this video. So as usual, I'll leave the full blog post link in the description box below so you can have a read through it yourself. Thank you very much for watching and make sure you check out my website solutionsabroad.co.uk to start tracking your Power BI learning.